Welcome to the Love on the Go podcast, brought to you by Carolina's Matchmaker. I'm Laurie, and for over 17 years, I've been helping singles find the relationship of their dreams all over the Carolinas. Along the journey, I've met so many amazing professionals and experts from various fields, and I'm excited to introduce them to you. What's my goal? I want to help you look at love and relationships in a new way and to grow in your understanding of how love works. Let's learn together how people have overcome personal obstacles and have found love, first and foremost with themselves. The ultimate goal is realizing that you are worthy and deserving of love. Let's get started. All right. Hello. We have Corri Smith with us. So Corri, for those of you who don't know Corri, is the owner of Black Wednesday, which is a Charlotte-based marketing and PR company focused on personifying brands through creative, innovative, and organic strategies. And she is very unique in the way that she helps people with their brands and telling their stories and consulting social media. I took a really cool class with you, I guess it was before the pandemic.
Yeah, a while ago.
You taught me so much about social media and how to get out there, and you're really an amazing practitioner. Welcome to Love on the Go.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So Corri, you're dressed in black. I'm wearing my black sweater, but I'm also wearing a white shirt. Tell us what the origin of your company's name, Black Wednesday, where did it come from?
Yeah. Well, I guess wearing all black. I mean, I've probably worn all black for at least a decade. And so it very much became a part of like my personal brand. Like You can sort of pick me out more easily, especially in the South. I feel like in New York, I would just blend in, whereas in the South, I definitely stand out a bit. So that had become a part of my personal brand. And then when I was thinking about starting a company and what to name it, I wanted Black to be in the name. And then I also wanted something that would be like that would sort of normalize the word Black, because I think a lot of people have like different perceptions about what having the word Black in your company name means. And so I settled on Wednesday for a few reasons. I really like Wednesday Addams, but also that I knew that the type of personality I have and the type of service that we would offer would be unique and different and a little bit unexpected, and that can be a little scary for people, but it attracts the right people and it sort of like scares away the wrong people.
Yes.
And we just sort of do things differently, and that's sort of like the whole concept of Wednesday Addams. She's just a little different and weird. And so I like that. Yes. And also I really like the day of the week because most people think it's not that great. It's sort of like probably the least exciting day of the week. And so through marketing, you can make anything exciting if you work hard enough. So we're making Wednesdays cool. So that's like a little bit of the background there.
I think that's great. And anyone who's listening to this needs to go to Corri's Instagram and look at her photos from her wedding.
Oh, yeah.
Please describe what you did for your wedding, because it was so unusual.
Yeah, we wanted to keep it casual, and we don't really have, any sort of religious leanings. And so we didn't want to go like a traditional church route. And so we chose to get married at the historic Elmwood Pinewood Cemetery in Uptown Charlotte, because we take our dogs walking there and it's just beautiful. It's like a very gorgeous place. And so we did our like 10-minute ceremony there in the middle of the cemetery. And then we did a reception at a hotel in South Park that had like a really nice rooftop. But yeah, so our wedding was very short and sweet, and I had a black dress and everything was like, our flowers sort of looked dead, and it was just very special. It was a very, really beautiful day for us.
I love it. And your husband was just fine with that concept. And
yeah, so actually it's funny because I always wanted to get married in a cemetery, but he didn't really know that. But he like sort of came up with the idea, and I was just like, oh my gosh, that's a great idea. We should do that. So it was sort of like his idea actually, which was cool. We had the other option was we had asked if our favorite nursery would let us get married in one of their greenhouses, and they have never really hosted things like that, and they just were like, this sounds like something that we just couldn't activate on. So our next choice was the cemetery, and they were thrilled to have us. So it was very fun.
It was the most creative thing I've ever seen in my life, probably. So
Thank you.
kudos to you. So
Thank
let's
you.
talk about your relationship journey. You know, I remember talking to you years ago about just even filling out a profile to be in my database. And I remember you looking at me, tell me if you remember this, Corri, and you saying, I just don't know if you're going to meet the kind of guy that is right for me. I don't know. You had a very specific kind of guy in mind.
Mhm.
And so tell me all about it. And also what your age is would be interesting to know too for
Yeah,
the,
so I just turned 37
okay.
last week, or
Happy
week
birthday.
and a half ago. And yeah, I think when we had that conversation, I was very I was in the phase where I don't think I had given up, but I think I had started to come around to being okay with potentially being single forever. And so what that meant for me from like getting listed or trying to have someone help me meant that like my standards would be extremely high, because I was
Right.
sort of already like not committed to being alone, but I was like in acceptance mode of that. And so like for someone to change my mind would be pretty unrealistic. Because when I'm very decisive, like once I make up my mind about something, it's like pretty hard to change it. And so enter my husband. Yeah, I mean, I'll be happy to tell you all about that.
Yeah.
But he definitely undid all of that belief system, and it took him a long time to do that. It's very he's just a special person that was able to do that magically somehow. I have no idea.
Well, I want to get to that, but let's back it up a little bit if you don't
Mhm.
mind. So obviously, you know, you'd had relationships prior to that. Was there something that happened with one of the more recent relationships prior to meeting your husband where you were like, no, I'm just done for right now and I need to just sit back, work on me, enjoy my
Mhm.
life, and just accept? Like, was there something that catapulted you to that point, or like what happened in your previous relationships? And what
Yeah,
did you learn from them?
I think I should also give the disclaimer that I'm a bit different in that I didn't date a lot,
Okay.
because I was very much already in a very serious relationship with Black Wednesday. And
Yes.
so I that was very much where 110% of my attention would go. That's the only place I wanted to put it. And so that was sort of an election that definitely hindered my interest in dating, and also like my capacity to date. I think I saw people here and there, but I had not, prior to my husband, I had not been in a committed relationship since I was in college. So that would
Okay.
have been 15 years ago.
Wow. Okay.
So like I said, I saw people, we dated, like maybe we saw each other for 6 months, but like we hadn't labeled it, whatever. So like I've had like some relationships, but really nothing like super serious for a very long time.
Okay.
But there was an instance with a partner a few years ago that really ended really terribly. And this was a person that I very much trusted, and I really thought that like I had given my whole self to that person, and they crushed me.
Okay.
And so I was not really, when you give that to somebody and you think like, okay, like this is really what love is, and then they like pull the rug out from under you,
Yeah.
It's hard because that's not really what love is, because like love wouldn't do that, and
Mm-hmm.
so like I was just like, okay, well, if the person that you think loves you the most is going to do that to you, then we're like, really, like, what is love? Like, does
Mm-hmm.
it exist?
Yes.
And so I think that was sort of the moment, like, that sort of where I was like, okay, like, I'm gonna shut down for a while.
Yeah. Did you have any inkling that that was going to happen? Were there any warnings?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And did
But
you know, could you have known from the beginning even that
yeah.
that would have
hmm
happened?
hmm
That would be interesting to hear.
Yeah.
What was it that was like a red flag from the beginning that you ignored because, you wanted it
Yeah.
to work?
I think I see that. I mean, I observe this often with women
Mm-hmm.
and in myself, that
Mm-hmm.
like I sort of had this like these rose colored glasses and like this like disgusting level of optimism, and like all
Mm-hmm.
you can do is feed into like the potential that you see in someone, but that doesn't actually mean that like they will ever follow through or live up to it. It's really, you're sort of like putting them on a weird pedestal that like they don't belong on.
Yeah.
And so there were definite signs, but I think in in my nature and in my dating history, I was sort of like the giving tree, where I just like
Mm.
always put someone else's needs before my own, so much so that like I'm just now like learning that I have needs that I should like think about
Mm.
and care about and focus on. And so I think I just gave so much of myself away in past relationships where I didn't know what a healthy relationship looked like.
Mm-hmm.
And so this person was just another person that took and took and took and took a lot from me. But I
Mm-hmm.
had been so used to that I was so quick to ignore the red flags because I had
Yeah.
seen them in other people before.
Yeah.
It was just a bad pattern. And that was
Yes.
like on me, really.
Yes.
I don't know if that answered your question at all.
Well, it does answer my question. And I think you're 100% right that women do authentically want relationships so deeply that they put on those rose-colored glasses and say, well, I'll ignore this because I'm getting so much. And he could be, the father of my children, and, everybody's got something and whatnot. And they, ignore the fact that their boyfriend or husband is just taking, and they are inflexible and intransigent, and finally start getting mean.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're in a situation where they're like, okay, finally they're like, well, he's being meaner to me than I am to myself. And then they're able to kind of walk away at that point eventually, or not,
Yeah, yeah.
you know?
And or they sort of are forced to break up with a person
Mhm.
because they now resent that person so much because
Yes.
they gave so much to that person took it.
Yep.
And then you're like, wait a minute, like you're actually taking advantage, but I offered it in the first place. You took advantage. Can I really be mad at you? But now I'm mad at you. So it's
Exactly.
weird. But yeah, I was definitely very turned off from dating. I did the app
Mhm.
thing, and those were like short stints of like, I'm gonna try it. And then it was like,
Right.
oh, I can't even get a conversation to work. I'm gonna get off of it and say like I'll meet someone like when they break into my house. So I very much went back and forth on that. And I think the pandemic definitely challenged my perspective on work.
Mhm.
Um, and also meeting my partner challenged what my relationship was with work as well, which is sort of where we are now.
Exactly. So tell us about how you met your husband.
Yeah, we met on an app. We like to say
Uh-huh.
we met through a mutual friend, the internet. Um, and we met on Hinge. And I like Hinge because instead of like looking at a photo and like two sentences and saying
Mhm.
yes or no, there's a little bit more depth. It's more vertical and you have multiple photos and question prompts, and you can comment on a photo, or you can answer their question, or you can make a comment on their question, like their answer, and start a conversation. So I actually responded to something that he said, and unfortunately Hinge is like, sorry, we can't recall any of your conversations because you deleted your account, which we would love to go back to those. But anyway, he had said, I think it had said, what are you looking for? And his response was to like have a conversation that lasts, which I thought was funny, because like that is the whole issue with apps, is that like things just like fizzle out so quickly. So I responded and was like, it shouldn't be that hard,
Right.
And so that sort of opened the door to a conversation, and we just sort of were able to share relational stories about our experiences there and whatever. And this was actually April 10th of 2020.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, and so we, at that moment in time, the pandemic was new.
Oh, yeah.
And it was supposed to be over in Charlotte on May 8th. I don't know if you remember, but they had said on May 8th it would be over, and then it got pushed back to May 15th, because I remember those dates well, because when we connected, May 8th would have been like 3 weeks away, and we were like, okay, well, should we meet in person, or
Right.
should we wait until it's over on
Right.
May 8th? And then the date got pushed back, and we were like, well, we may as well not wait, because like May 15th is forever away. And then fast forward 2+ years, and it's like still going. So
That's right.
I'm glad we didn't wait. But yeah,
Did you meet outside?
No, we met in my house, which is also like a huge no-no, but
during the lockdown.
Yeah, and April 10th was, a couple weeks into like when the pandemic really became real in Charlotte. And I had lost most of my clients already during March. And so I had all the time in the world, and we just FaceTimed for like 5 hours a day. And then I felt like he wasn't going to murder me. And so he came to our first date at my house.
I love that. Did you cook dinner?
No, we ordered pizza.
Okay.
Yeah.
Love it. And did you know right away?
Yes, I knew before he even came to my house. I knew before I met him in person.
Was there like a moment where you're like, yep, that's the one? Or like, what was it? How did you know?
Well, really, I knew there was something really special about him when we were FaceTiming. He was just really funny and really easy to talk to. And I was like, okay, this is different. However, I had had other experiences with past people before. And so I was like, okay, I'm just going to wait for the other shoe to drop. Like he's going to have a family, or he's going to like have something wrong with him. He's going to show up with like some, like, I don't even know what I imagined him to show up to my house with. And I really knew he was the one. After we had been dating for a few months, I was still waiting for like the shoe to drop. And I was like, something has to be wrong with you. Like there has to be something, because there's no reason why there shouldn't be something wrong with you. And I had ordered some patio furniture, and I came home from work one day, and he had like put it all together.
Oh,
and I was like, oh my gosh, not only is that just like so sweet in general, but it was particularly meaningful to me because I had never had someone be so thoughtful to like do something that would be so helpful to me. Like he knew that like that would be extremely helpful to me. Because I did not want to do that, and it would take me forever, and it would probably push it off 3 months before I did it myself. And so he knew that it would be so meaningful, and that meant a lot to me. And that's when I knew. I was like, okay, here's this person that wants to do sweet things for me, and I had never been with anyone like that.
yeah, it was a completely selfless act. Yes, a handyman also is exactly who you want to marry, right?
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was kind of like beginning days. And then what occurred with your relationship where you kind of knew it was really progressing into something, and you had stopped waiting for the other shoe to drop?
Yeah, well, we weren't, I mean, it's only 2022 and we're already married,
Mhm.
so
Right.
things moved pretty quickly. I think, in the very beginning, he was very much stuck in his ways of, because he had also been very independent and a loner, and so we were very much the same but different. And so he had sort of started to change his ways and was like more interested to like change his schedule to spend time together and things like that. And I was also like, okay, I'm gonna also be flexible around work and
Mhm.
make time. And so we both had sort of like changed a little bit and been more open to
Mhm.
that. And he like moved in January of 2021. So we were together
Okay.
about 9 months before he moved in. And I would say that's sort of where things changed, because I was like, okay, he's like moving in with me. This is like the real deal.
Mhm.
And we did go through some pretty important sort of life moments together. Unfortunately, we had to put both of his dogs down
Ugh.
within like 30 days of each
Oh,
other.
no, 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 no.
And within 30 days of him moving in,
Mm,
it was awful.
mm,
And because the dogs were, I mean, my dogs are also a very important part of my life, but his dogs were even more an important part of his life, like
mm.
going through that with him, and just, it was just a very experience where we got very close, because
Mm.
it was like a very tragic sequence of events. So I would say that was sort of where I was like, okay, like we're really bonded here. And this is like really happening.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so sorry for those losses. I just lost my dog recently, and I
Oh,
can't
I'm
even
sorry.
imagine losing two in a month. That would be horrendous.
Yeah, and then 9 months later, we had to put one of mine down. So we went
Ugh.
from like four dogs to one dog, like very
Mm.
quickly. I mean, dogs are, if you're a dog person, you know that like your dogs are like your children. And
Yeah.
it was tragic. I'm sorry for your loss as well. But it
Thank
was a
you.
very, I think, impactful moment in our
Mhm.
relationship.
Right.
For better or for worse.
Right. You can see how the other reacts to grief, to stress, to really important life moments, and how they
Mhm,
treat you. Do they, just avoid you and,
mhm.
disappear, or do they share and cry with you and whatnot? So that was really important. Um, and then did you find, out of curiosity, is it different being married and living together versus just living together?
Yes. The one main difference I would, people are like, how's married life? And I'm like, oh, it's the same.
Hmm.
Except that I will say a big difference between just living together versus being married is that I find that now that we're married, we really get through disagreements and arguments much faster
Hmm.
because we have nowhere to go. And
Right. You can't
um,
escape.
yeah, and you're just like gonna be together, so you may as well like figure it out. And so
Hmm.
I find that like, you know, you don't sweat the small stuff as much. And also like the big things you just sort of like deal with, because when you're living together but not committed in that way, someone can go to their apartment, or someone can leave, or you can like break up, or whatever, or you can drag it out for 5 days if you want, because you could throw yourself into work and just not pay
Hmm.
attention to it. Whereas like when you're living together and you're married, it's like, yeah, this would just better figure this out, because otherwise we're just going to be in misery for the next however many days until we do. So we may as well like
Exactly.
move faster. I would say that's the biggest difference I've noticed.
Yeah, that's really good. And it's strange to me. Sometimes I'll talk to someone and they'll say that they're in a fight with their boyfriend or their spouse, and they're not talking in the house for days on end.
Yeah.
I cannot even imagine that at all. Like, I don't know how people survive that, frankly.
Yeah, we can't. I
Mm-mm.
couldn't.
No.
But I think when you're dating and or just living together, and someone may have like a second location they can go, it's sort of easy to do that. Like you could just go to work and be like, oh, I was busy, or no, I can't come over because I have to work late, or I have a work thing, or I have
Right.
this other thing. So it's like when you're married though, it's like there's nowhere to go. You may as well
Yeah,
just like deal with it.
exactly. So how did he propose?
So on our first date, we ate pizza and watched Dirty Dancing for whatever reason that
Oh,
was like on TV. We've
oh,
now since gone to the place in Virginia where like Dirty Dancing was filmed and checked it out
oh.
and stuff. It's actually really close to here. I think it's near Blacksburg, Virginia. But
Mhm.
and so my mom was in town for Mother's Day last year, and so he had intended to ask me on like a Saturday morning, and he hadn't been sleeping any of the days leading up to it. And so I had dropped my mom off where she was staying on Friday night,
Uh-huh.
and I got home, it's like 8:30, and he was like, we have to talk. And I was like, okay. And so Dirty Dancing was actually on, but it's like always on TV, like cable. So I like didn't really think anything of it, but I was like, oh, Dirty Dancing, cute. Um, and I was like literally wearing sweatpants and sitting on the couch. And my mom had brought my favorite thing, sponge candy from New York, which like most people don't even know what that is. But anyways, I had just shoved a piece of it in my mouth, and I was like ranting about family stuff. And he was like, I need to get your opinion on something. And I was like, okay. And he like got down on like next to the couch on one knee. Also, he was wearing like sweats. And he was just like rambling. And I wish I would have written it down what he said, but he said, I want to get your opinion on something. And he said, you know, this is where we met, and this is like where we've fallen in love, and this is where we built our family and all that good stuff, and this is where we put dogs down, and this is where we, have built a life together. And he asked if I'd marry him, and he pulled out a ring, and yeah, it was perfect because it was just for us, it wasn't like anything crazy, or like, it was just really nice.
My gosh, I've got tears.
Yeah.
It was just for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then he started to hyperventilate and freak out because he was like, I haven't slept in days and I'm so nervous and I don't know
Oh,
why I'm nervous. And he was like hyperventilating and like dry heaving, and I felt so bad for him. But yeah, it was great because
oh.
then like the next day my mom was physically in Charlotte to like celebrate with us. And so we got to spend the weekend with family, and it was really good.
And did he give you a special ring?
Yes. So we had gone, I don't know if you can like really see it, but
Ooh.
we had gone to look at rings, and we had picked out like the band, and we had looked at a few diamonds. And it's really funny. The ring story is funny because the diamond that we both really loved was like sort of middle of the road as it relates to
Uh-huh.
like the budget that we were going for, and
Uh-huh.
sort of on the higher end of the budget. So
Right.
the sales lady had said, if you don't buy this diamond today, like I don't know, it's not going to be available. And so he was just like, I'm not ready, whatever. And so the week before he proposed, actually, he said he was so pissed. And I was like, why are you so pissed? He said, because the sales lady called him and said, hey, I lost your ring information. I didn't put it in the system and the card disappeared. Like, you guys have to come back. And so he
Oh,
was so mad. And I was like, oh, okay, whatever. We'll just like go back, because like that original diamond wasn't going to be there anyway. So like we may as well like go back. Well, he had gotten the diamond.
oh.
So he used that story to like throw me off. And I was like, and so then like, yeah, he proposed, and I was like, oh my gosh, this like, I'm not a diamond expert, but this like looks like the diamond that we had looked at. And he was like, it is the diamond that we looked at.
Oh,
I thought that was so sweet.
it's a beautiful diamond. I was almost wondering if you'd gone with like a black diamond or something that was on brand.
I, yeah, I always thought I would, but when we were looking around, I didn't really see anything that I really loved.
Yeah.
And so here we are with a little
Yeah.
classic
It's
solitaire.
gorgeous. It is
Thank you.
gorgeous. What advice would you give to single women who are pursuing their career dreams, but also want to prioritize love and relationships?
I definitely think being really proactive about making space for someone else is important. Not to say that if you make space for someone, they're going to materialize, but um, like you have to try and you have to go out and you have to put yourself in places where you're gonna potentially meet people. So you like have to like be pretty active. And I think that you can still do that while you're really focused on work. It's just like figuring out how to organize your priorities at any given time. And I would say like I myself wasn't really that great about it, but like I had a couple girlfriends that were single. And so we used to have dates with each other where we would go
Right.
out, but we weren't going to go out to have meaningful conversations with each other, because if you go out with your girlfriends, you're just going to pay attention to your girlfriends. So we went out, we had those dates where we would like engage each other and like catch up and do all that. And then these dates were specifically like, we're going out to like not have meaningful conversations with each other, but to like pay attention to our surroundings and like see who we can meet. And and so that like even that mindset of like I'm gonna be like have my radar on and I'm gonna like be active in how I'm setting aside time to actively like look and engage people and try to meet people. I think sort of just like opening the door to that is meaningful.
I love that. So being very intentional about your time with your friends and going out and potentially meeting people. That's good, because a lot of times people do go out and they just talk to each other and then they're like, I never meet anybody. It's like, well, there's different ways of doing that. Okay. That's brilliant. I love it. And do you think that with social media and dating sites and apps being so relevant, do you recommend that people try to sort of brand themselves in terms of dating? Do you think that that's kind of a strategy?
I don't know. I think if that is something that feels comfortable to someone, I think you totally could. I mean, I think I had branded myself the opposite way of just like over independent, don't need anybody. But I think, yeah, I mean, I think there's opportunities to brand yourself a certain way. I think that just being open-minded and presenting yourself as such is important. For example, I have a friend that is on the apps, but is very quick to like write people off. And it's like, well, we're not there to do that. And I could be that way too. Like I've been that way before. But like you're there to be open-minded. You're there to like see where things go. So don't try to like kill people you've not even met yet. So I think being on there and engaging and just seeing where it can go. If nothing else, especially if you're career driven, hopefully there could be like networking opportunities, or they have a friend that you could meet, or whatever. I think there are some wins that can come out of it regardless.
I love it. When I work with somebody with online dating, we always get great images, photos, outdoor, indoor, and we help them with their profile write up and whatnot. So that in itself is a type of branding and marketing, completely, because you only have like 2 seconds for a guy to make a decision, to swipe right or left.
Yeah, and I would say like the best thing that someone could do when they're branding themselves on their app or on their bio is to highlight the positive things about who you are and what you're looking for. Because I recall when I was on there, there were a lot of people that were like, know this, know that, I don't do this, I don't like that. And it's
Yep.
like, why don't you lead with like what you do like and what you do enjoy instead of like what you don't, because like you lost me at the negativity.
Exactly.
And I get that like being on the apps can be difficult and like miserable sometimes, but it's like, don't let that like change who you are. Like if you're
Yeah.
gonna play the game, put on a jersey and like play the freaking game. Like don't like cry about playing the game or like cry on the bench. Like that doesn't make any sense. Just like put on a happy face and like see what happens.
Brilliant. Great advice. Thank you, Corri. This has been so much fun. I love seeing you. I love hearing your love story, and I can't wait to see what rolls out for you in the future. I'll be waiting and watching. And do you have any charities that you are affiliated with that you'd like to share?
Yeah. Thank you for asking and thank you for having me again. So one nonprofit that I'm like really very much trying to support at the moment is called Samaritan House.
Yeah.
I just joined their board. They are doing really incredible work for the homeless population in Charlotte.
Mhm.
They are a medical respite, and so they're sort of like a brokerage place between, someone without housing goes into the hospital because they're sick or they have cancer or they need surgery or what have you, before they just go back out sort of into the community. Maybe they don't have a home to go to. Maybe they're going to a shelter. The
Mhm.
Samaritan House can house them and help them with any loose ends as it relates to their healthcare needs, and helps with their caseworker to try to like make sure they do have a place to go, whether it's short or long-term housing. And so there are like, they have a house in Charlotte, and they have like a consistent flow of people that they're helping get back on their feet after they've had some medical issues. So it's really lovely. They have actually a luncheon coming up in the spring that they'll start fundraising for soon. And they also are selling, in collaboration with Mallory Candle Company, they're selling candles with holiday scents. And so $15 from the candle goes back to the charity. So they're one that I always like to shout out.
Okay, good. We'll put it in the show notes. And then where can people find you?
BlackWednesday.co is a good place to find me. And also I'm Corri A. Smith across all social. It's Corria Smith.
Wonderful. Corri, thanks again. Lovely to see you.
Thank you, Laurie.
Thanks for listening to Love on the Go. I hope you join us on our next episode. You can make sure to know when it is by following us wherever you listen to podcasts. Also, if you enjoyed it, it'd be great if you left us a review. I'd appreciate it. In the meantime, to learn more about me and how my team can help you, visit carolinasmatchmaker.com. Until next time.